Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again, and we have something very, very, very special for you in the gacha space. And it's something that we've seen covered on the channel before, but today, it's going to be really different. It's a Prydwen tier list, except this time, this tier list isn't going to be for Honkai Star Rail, it's not going to be for Wuthering Waves, it's not going to be for Zenless Zone Zero. The games Prydwen was known for when it came to these tier lists, it's going to be for a new entrant. It's odd that I'm calling them new because they're actually the oldest game here, Genshin Impact. Yes, the first Genshin Impact Prydwen tier list has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. And based off the placement that I've been seeing for all of the units in the game, this is one of the biggest tier lists ever, and I think there's a reason for why it took them so long to make it. It exposed Hoyoverse. It exposed Genshin, and truly, it has, like, painted the path for why they're giving out so many free units, why they're giving out so many free constellations, and why they're, like, sort of, you know, more generous than they were before. It's because power creep has absolutely destroyed the balance of this game. It is easily, after seeing this tier list, probably the most unbalanced Hoyoverse game out there. And they've managed to do that with just the release of Natlan. They took, with the release of Mabuika, Sitlala, units like that, they made damage go overboard. And the game has been running basically buck wild ever since. And maybe that's why they have a tier list now, because it wasn't kind of needed before, because you could use whatever you wanted to clear. That's not the case anymore. So anyways, that's going to be the brief little intro. Now they got a changelog. And so I do want to actually read this first, so you know that this tier list is based in reality. Finally, we have released our Genshin tier list. This was the combined effort of several reputable theory crafters. So once again, this ain't like, you know, like they're actually taking the Genshin theory crafters from the community. Thanks to their testing experience and findings, we have ranked the overall strength of all characters and will continue updating the tier list as patches go by. And I think they're keeping the theory crafters anonymous because, like, they don't want them to get hate because the Genshin community is retarded. You get what's going on, right? Like, if you found out, oh my god, you rated my character tier 0.5, I'm gonna go find the guy and dox him. Yeah, like they would actually do that. I'm not joking. I think they would do that if they found out you rated your character lower than they wanted. Though, just like with any other tier list, community feedback is important, and we will be listening for any info we might have missed. With that being said, please sure to read our criteria to fully understand how we define our rankings. So, they got like a Stygian Onslaught thing going on. It's basically not going to be available yet, but yeah, they're just waiting until 7.0 for their Stygian Onslaught one. So, do keep that in mind. Yeah, I think these are just like some of the disclaimers, and we'll take a look at the watch list later on. But yeah, that's basically the summary of it. So why don't we go ahead and why don't we start looking at where the characters are? And so this is going to be tier 0. And what do you see in tier 0, ladies and gentlemen? Just a quick glance at just tier 0. Who do you currently see? In the DPS category, I see Flynn's, then I see Mabuika, then I see Nefer, and then I see this bitch Zibai, Yizhuan. Essentially, all you see here are units, DPS units that were released in Natlan or Nodcry, and that's it. Basically, you only see DPS units from the past 2 regions in tier 0. And tier 1 and tier 0.5. That's it. And then in the sub DPS category, it's literally exactly the same. Just Natlanese and Nodcry characters. And then of course, these guys basically count if they have like the whole like stellar superconduct because they work with this bitch Sandroni. Guys, basically, what this tier list has become is essentially all characters released. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters and DPS in tier 0. Look how many characters are not there, though. Some people are saying exactly like Wuwa. Does Wuwa's bottom half of the tier list look like this? Hey guys, does Wuwa's bottom half of the tier list look like this? Let's look at all of the deprecated DPS characters. Arlecchino, Kaniche, this guy just released. Verisa, I thought she was strong. Oh, then we got Chlorins. Klee, Hu Tao, Liney. Navia down here, Nuvalette. Huh. Zhao up here, I'll hate them over here. This game has so many unplayable characters, it's actually unreal. There might be like maybe out of the limited Wuwa DPS characters, right? There's maybe like 6 or there's maybe like 4 or 5 of them that can't clear certain types of content. Bro, what is this? A majority of the units in the game can't clear. That's what this is telling you. A majority of the units in the game literally cannot clear. But that's just DPSs. Then you get into like sub DPSs and stuff like that. You got to remember that Genshin is a 4-person team. Remember that. It is basically 33% more expensive just in like character expenditures, right? To build teams in Genshin and HSR compared to games like Zenless Zone Zero and Wuwa. And so you have this like crazy cycling in and out, right? Of the most modern characters always being tier 0. And then the teams are basically 33% more expensive while also having a higher level of power creep. This game has essentially gotten so fucking expensive, it's unreal. And yes, we'll admittedly say this. There are some 4-star characters on here. But who are these 4-star characters probably going to need to even perform? Probably like 3 5-stars from here, right? And they also need to be C6. They need to be C6 and then also have probably 3 5-stars from the other sides all over here, right? That's likely where you're using 4-star characters in Genshin Impact, right? I don't think there's probably not too many teams that have 2 4-star characters on them and are tier 0 or above. That's essentially how this game's meta has evolved. To the point where you now got units like Farina and Kazuha, who are considered just the best fucking units in the game ever. You got Shenhe tier 0.5. It's just kind of nuts, bro. It's just kind of nuts, bro, to see how this game has basically developed, how the game has sort of like transitioned in terms of like its meta, because literally, if you were to look at this tier list, I think 3 years ago, bro, like Farina's tier 0, Alhaitham is like tier 0, bro. You have like 20 DPSs that are up here. You literally have like 20 DPSs that are up here. And when they decide to do things, right, like the Stellar Superconduct buffs, give characters, right, like Yai Miko, Chi-Chi, blah, 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 all of that, the ability to work with the newer units, well, what do you need to make them work? The newer fucking units that enable Stellar Superconduct. Or you need that bitch Cryo Traveler on your team, and Traveler's gonna be on all your fucking teams from here on out. Great, awesome. Now you're permanently using Traveler. That's gonna be fun. It's kind of unreal, right? It's kind of unreal, and it's kind of crazy how they just keep pushing for, even with their buffs, they're pushing for you to pull the new units. And essentially, I think that's how the future of this game is going to be. You're just gonna have like a new flavor of the month sort of like mechanic, right? A new flavor of the month sort of like Stellar Superconduct right now. But then they're gonna have a new meta, right? They're gonna have a new archetype that's gonna come out, and probably a new set of character buffs that work with that archetype. Probably gonna have Stellar Swirl, right? And then so Zhao is gonna get a rework. And then maybe it'll work with like fucking Dendro, and so these guys will get a rework. But that's like what it looks like right now. They've decided, hey, let's make everything just work with the new fucking units. And so they're constantly getting you to pull something. And that's the only way to make your old units work. And to me, that's the biggest abuse, I think, of sunk cost fallacy that I've like ever seen. Because you give value, right, to these older units that they have on the roster. You're like giving value. But the only way to actually access that value is to give Hoyoverse more money. Because how many of these teams are actually even clearing nowadays, bro? How many of these teams are like legitimately? I see numbers like tier 2, tier 1.5, tier whatever. Are these like even getting 3 stars? Are teams featuring like units like a fucking Albedo, bro? Or teams featuring a fucking Chlorind? Are they getting 3 stars, bro? In the Spiral Abyss? I genuinely do even like wonder if like these are like what does a tier 1.5 even mean? Does this mean you can actually clear? Not if the bosses have stupid mechanics? And I guess that's where it comes in. Because guys, they've been introducing more and more bosses into this game. Y'all remember the Gecko, right? For bosses like the Gecko, if you don't have this bitch and you don't have this bitch, it's basically fucking invulnerable. And that is showing up more and more in all of their fucking game modes. And so it's kind of just like, I wonder if that's accounted for in here, because you literally have stages and enemies in this game where if you don't bring the right element, they're unbeatable. And that just kind of like fucks over the tier list even more. Here's the last element over here that I really want to take into account, because I don't think we see this on any other tier list. Dupes of 5-star characters. The part to me that really stands out over here is that having dupes of 5-star units in this game is like so normalized, despite the fact that you don't even have like the shop like you do in Woo-Wah where you can buy them for like corals. But I guess it's under the assumption that you're like using the free dupes or like something like that. But I'm just like gonna be honest. The fact that there are so many units on here with like C1, it's like Hu Tao C1, Saito C1, Klee is C1. Oh yeah, Chi-Chi C1 over here. So I guess Chi-Chi and Mona are fine, right? But it's just, is that actually like C1 Nilo? Like, is this like actually what the player base is expecting from you? Just imagine being a newer player. I'm sorry, like just imagine being a newer player and then seeing that like people are normalizing having C1 or like fucking C2 of limited units. And like that's how this community judges character value. It's free C1s. How many of these free C1s do you get in a year? How many free C1s do you get in a year? 4 a year. Okay, how many C1s are on this fucking chart? Oh, okay, so you literally have to pick and choose who you're getting a C1 for. So even if it's fucking free, you have a limited number of them, and they take like 12 weeks to get. So it's like, just because it's free, it takes 12 weeks to get one, you fucking morons. Of constant grinding, logging in every single... And that shit isn't even free anyways. And so obviously, you gotta pick and choose, because there are a lot of fucking characters that are C1 or being rated C1 on here. You get 4 a year if you play every single day. Of course you're gonna still pick and choose and like want to make a good bet. Imagine saying, because it's free, oh my gosh, yeah, let's rate every character on C1. When you can't even get every C1 in the game for free like that. You can't even get all of these for free like that, so how could you rate all, like... Oh my god. Oh, you also gotta own them first. Yeah, you also gotta own them first. Because this is the thing, right? What if C1 Albedo's really good, but your retarded ass accidentally got a C1 Sino instead? That's like way worse. Oh, even though it was free, you're still fucked, aren't you? Because you didn't choose this guy instead of this guy. That's where I see a lot of issues with this tier list over here, because, like, truly, this is one of the most, I think, like, difficult tier lists to, like, take into account that I've ever seen. Because I just think it means this game is so fucked, balance-wise. That's why Ziox is burnt out. I'm gonna be honest. Like, if this was the shit that you had to contend with playing this fucking game, basically, 90% of the units are fucking bad. 90% of the fucking units are dog shit. Oh my god. I can't wait to see what the Stygian tier list looks like. I think it's just going to be like 3 units in tier 0 and then everyone's in tier 5. Now, you know what? I understand it. I understand it. It's got to be painful to be like a Genshin CC that's been like in the game for like 6 months, right? And then you're seeing how the meta of this bullshit has evolved over the past 2 years. You're seeing what used to be a top-heavy tier list where most of the characters were viable in the game transform into whatever the fuck this is. And I think it truly does show how the game is like falling off endgame-wise 100%. Because... does this even look like fun to get into? I feel like most people would view, right, like full clearing the TOA, full clearing whatever, the endgame mode as like a journey. This just looks like torture. Because remember, you're getting 60 pulls a patch. Because the pull income over here, how easy it is for you to get characters. Let's look at the Genshin bookkeeping. Oh, dude, this game is actually... what the fuck? Bro, you had some patches where it was like, bro, you had like literally a stretch. Bro, remember, Natlan is where this bullshit started. 59, 60, 62, 78, 60. Bro, there isn't even enough to hit pity in like half of these patches. And with that much power creep, right? And how fucking bottom heavy this tier list is. Do you see how these guys are just nickel and diming you like crazy? Do you see why the game is in milking mode right now? Do you see why having all these new mechanics, the stellar superconduct, the fucking lunar reactions, all of that is so toxic given the pull count that you're seeing over here? Bro, you just literally can't build teams. You can't build anything unless you actually pay some money. You can't actually clear the end game unless you pay some money. Because there's so much power creep and there's so little fucking pulls. You need 3 patches to guarantee a fucking character, bro. And this is kind of like the thing that a lot of Genshin players were doing to try to like defend Genshin while I was taking a look at the tier list, right? They were trying to bring up Wuthering Waves. They were all like, well, look. It's actually all the new units that are up here. Guys, you know when Carta Theo was released? Over a year ago. She was actually released over a year ago. Yuno also released about a year ago. And this bitch also a year ago. Bro, you have 1 DPS from a fucking year ago. I think it's Mavawika. I think you got 1 on there. And that's because it's fucking Mavawika. She's retardedly broken. And she's been broken since she released. And this is what it... And then you got Skirk over here who somehow managed to drop down. But this is the part over here where people are very likely going to get just completely destroyed. Bro, why don't you take a look at... Bro, you have more than enough to keep up with the pace of any meta shifts in Wuwa. More than enough. Because you get so many pulls in this game. You get so many fucking pulls in this game, bro. And so, keeping up with the meta, whatever, bro. You are hitting pity almost every... So you're hitting pity twice in some patches. 154.8, you're hitting pity twice. That has never happened in Genshin history. You have never even gotten close to 2 pities in an update before. Because these guys are greedy motherfuckers. 75 on 3.4, that's discounting all the Cyberpunk pulls. So, like, in reality, if you were to count the Cyberpunk pulls as pulls, it's like 90-something. Literally, it's like 90-something if you account for the Cyberpunk pulls. So it's like above 3.2. Plus, no 50-50, no 33 whatever on the weapon banner. That's why I'm saying this tier list is such a massive expose. Because you're expected to keep up with power creep this diabolical and this disgusting with no pulls. You would expect that the number of pulls should at least go up. Because of, like, inflation. Bro, like think about it this way. Like, money was worth a lot more back here than it was over here, right? Money was worth a lot more over here. Like, your time is technically worth more now because of inflation. So, like, you should be getting more pulls, right? You would assume just at a baseline. You should be getting more pulls in year 6, going on to year 7. But you should also be getting more to keep up with how absolutely disgusting the balance in this game has gotten. Where there's a new fucking stellar, lunar, solar, autismo, whatever the fuck they have prepped up, bro. You need that to clear anything. And just because characters like Bennett and Sucrose are still on here because the devs were high when they designed their kits in 1.0, that doesn't mean this game has good balance if there are 2 4-star characters from 1.0 that were retardedly broken when initially coded. And remember, you also need 4 units per team. You only need 3 units per team in this game, where you're getting so many more pulls. So it's actually cheaper to build teams that can clear content as well. And this is another big reason, the fact you only have 3 people teams, that this tier list doesn't feel bad at all. Because even if there's a new meta, even if there's a new archetype, it's easy for players to catch up. So easy, because they don't need to pull 4 characters. They don't need to wait another 3 months to guarantee a unit. Just so you know, Genshin having 4 units for a team makes it so you need to wait 3 more patches. Each patch is 42 days, just so you know. So you're going to be waiting another 4 fucking months for a character to play that team. That's how this game works. You got to wait another 4 fucking months to build that team. Man, that sounds great for a new player, doesn't it? Man, that sounds great for free-to-plays. That's because this game is just not played by free-to-plays anymore. It used to be, back here, because you could play. I think up until you got to like 5 point whatever, you could play whatever the fuck you wanted in all the endgame modes in clear. This was the golden time of Genshin Impact. Right here. This was the golden time of Genshin Impact. Then Wuthering Waves got released, and then Genshin decided to go full milking mode. And this is the end result. What a fucking disaster. And this is what I'll comfortably say regarding this tier list and everything we've seen so far. Bro, I cannot wait for the Stygian Onslaught one. I cannot fucking wait. Because remember, since our release falls right on the cusp of version 6.7 and Genshin 7.0 Shinazaya patch, a very late Stygian tier list for 6.7 did not seem very useful for the community, who is likely researched and cleared all they can. And so, we all know how Stygian Onslaught works. You actually have only like a set, like, I think like 12 characters you can use a reset. Maybe 15 characters you can use a reset, and then everyone else in the game is useless. I have never seen such a poorly balanced game mode before, and I am so excited to see, like, just what the rankings are, who's in tier 0, and where everyone else actually ends up landing. It's gonna be a good one. But yeah, that's gonna be the first iteration of the Prydwen Genshin tier list, ladies and gentlemen. And, well... I think it's everything that everybody expected. Like, I don't think anyone expected anything different from this one. All right, peace out.